Chanted Super Blues, ringing all around. Now all you blue boys know what we mean. We are the lads from the Tilton, we'll support you till the end of the day. We're so happy following the blues.
Just the one and only Mr. Mark Abbott.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's okay. And nice weekend.
We're welcoming tonight the gin drinker herself, the one and only lovely Hello. And then we've got Mr. Victor. He knows where my house is apparently.
I not only know where it is, Nick, but
Mr. Victor, Craig Courtney.
good evening, everyone.
And of course, as always, all over the buttons there he is with his headphones on, the one and only Mr. Chris Brown.
Good evening.
Oh, that's great to have Birmingham City fan, guru, media man, Mr. Colin Tattum.
No. In you, Colin.
But got a cracker of a show for us tonight. Nothing's organised as always. And we just muddle through the 90 minutes as we do. But you know what? We muddle through well.
Yeah.
Topics
Before we carry on, must apologise, just before we carry on, I am just reading the sad news that have been released by the club, that the fan and who was supporter of the year last year, Gary Williams, has unfortunately passed away. So our thoughts and condolences to all of the family, as I'm sure every fan of Birmingham City and across the club will say the same thing.
What a lovely guy.
Absolute true gent.
Yeah, he's a great guy, wasn't he? Such a fighter as well. I think he was an inspiration to everybody with what he was suffering, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Condolences to the family. It's awful.
You know what? I'm struggling. Right, I'll come on tonight with a happy-go-lucky kind of normal me kind of, and then we hear something like that, and it like brings you back to earth, doesn't it?
Massive Blues fan. What a shame. What a shame.
It's only, in all honesty, just been released as well. It hit my Twitter account just as you were doing the intro.
Really. I'm sure the club will do something for him for a decent send-off.
Definitely.
What a supporter. What an individual. What a person.
You're listening to the Tilton Talk Show, live every Monday, 6:30 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and available as a podcast from Tuesday, 12 p.m.
Who was at the game Saturday?
Yep.
What's up?
Yep.
There was, Watto was, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, Colin?
Yep.
In what capacity, Colin, as a supporter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Love it.
So, yeah. Me and my lad watching it, so big game.
Do you know what, Colin? Isn't it wonderful when you can sit next to your children at a game of football and you know that your dad took you and your uncles and your aunties and your sisters and your brothers have been there and now it's my children and my grandchildren.
Absolutely. It's been a bit odd for me as well because in the working capacity, I've not really been able to do that. But now I have, and it's great. And also, he's of an age now where he's wanted to go to away games as well, which is interesting. 17.
Take him down the concourse and do it heavily with him.
Yeah, I've got to be very careful with the company I mix with on a match day, to be honest.
I'm sure, yeah. Right, okay, so Colin, you were there, your take on that game, because I was at work watching it on Blues TV, and my God, that first goal was a world-class goal, in my opinion. He took that so well, and the pass was just sublime. It was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goosebump alert, ladies and gents, goosebump alert.
Yeah, I think it was obviously such a massive result, not so much about how we played, but it was just needed, the 3 points come what may. And I think John Eustace matched us up with Rotherham 4-2-3-1, and that sort of front four were very, very good for that opening spell, that half an hour. And as you say, fantastic goal, a big switch to the left, and Dukey had one of his games where he had such an impact on so many levels, and a piece of brilliance from Cadra, wasn't it, which really settled everything down, and I felt from then on we were pretty much in control, and even when they had their big spell in the second half, after they changed their system, which gave us a bit of problems. I just thought the defensive aptitude from the team was superb, and it was dig out a win and at any cost in many respects. But it was so welcome, and fair play to the players and also to the management. Obviously, I know John Eustace has been under a lot of pressure. 9 defeats in 11 in the league, not ideal. But he got that right, and he got a performance out of the players. And I think it is fair to say that, he's not lost those players once this season. Whereas in the last couple of years, I think towards the end of managers' tenures, it was obvious in some of the performances. I don't think you could say that this season, regardless.
We discussed at length on this show, and we all agree that we had a very difficult time after the World Cup. And it was like when we were saying, suggesting perhaps that players had achieved their goal of getting to a World Cup final, and then all of a sudden saying, "Well, that's it. I've done that now. I don't need to put an effort in." That was our opinion as Birmingham City fans.
Yeah,
What to say at the weekend though, Bielik, probably one of the best games that he's had since the World Cup. But also,
Craig, it was honestly a toothless performance.
Oh, that's a terrible joke. I was gonna wish him well after what had happened. I mean, it's still beyond me how the player stayed on the field, let alone anything else.
Just call me Christian.
We'll call you a few things. Don't worry. You don't worry. Plenty of time for that.
Yeah, I mean the way the whole team and Collins is that I echo really what you'd said. That there was that fight and passion from the very first kick of the game on Saturday that we potentially haven't seen across the board. But Duke was unplayable, and to me, we said last week that was Ruddy the right person to be captain, and I think that actually Saturday we saw Duke leading from the front, and on many occasions he pulled the players to one side and was talking to them separately, and even the defence wasn't afraid to give them a roasting, and that's just perfect. It's what you need, on-field leaders throughout, and he was man of the match by an absolute mile on Saturday, and fair play to him because he ran his backside off. What a shift.
Yeah.
You get to that stage in your career, and he's not a spring chicken anymore, right? But when you put a shift in like that is fan appreciation 100%, 100%. Mark, your take.
Pretty much echoing what Colin and Craig have said. I mean, like Jukey, hand on heart, last season we thought, Jukey can barely run, 5-10 minutes and he's, blowing. But I want him to stay now for another season. I want him to finish his career with us now after that. I know he's not going to play like that week in, week out, but he is just invaluable. But going to the rest of the lads, they we looked in control. We sort of always looked comfortable. Even like Colin said, when Rotherham had their spell, Ruddy wasn't really tested, to be fair, because we were just blocking everything. We were just determined to keep that clean sheet, and it was like it was really refreshing. It's like going back to the Blues of old, really. And I think the major influence as well was keeping a fairly basic formation. It's like back to basics, and that's the result you get. So yeah, really happy, really chuffed.
Well, that is Mark. A Birmingham City team is back to basics, right? Back to basics. Play the game how we play the game. Don't worry about your opposition. I mean, you know me in 4-4-2.
It wasn't 4-4-2 on Saturday. It wasn't 4-4-2. No, it was.
No, I know, but like.
It was simplified.
Was it 4-3-2-1?
Yeah, 4-2-3-1 really. Yeah.
House.
It's worth a shout out on a couple of the shout out box already. Jim Tony, long as improved, deserves a mention. Yes.
Great finish. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Centre half.
You was at the game. Let's have your take.
I think 4-2-3-1 changed it really, and I'm glad that he did. He actually went at them. I mean, they weren't really giving anything anyway. I think with having pace as well, I think Kadra's pace was phenomenal. I would sign him up as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is that if you look at the championship team of the week, we've got 3 of our back 4 in there. And I think that shows a massive difference as well. I do think Long has improved. He's a very much get rid of it kind of player. So if in doubt, he does kick it out, which can sometimes be a bit frustrating. But I just think, Chang was brilliant as well. At one point, we had 2 18-year-olds in the middle, and I think that's got to be a way forward. Hopefully, if we can, cement that we're still in the division, I think we need to start bringing in some of the youngsters. But I thought Chong was good as well. I just think that everybody just picked it up, and they all knew what they were doing. And I think, Eustace played it right, I think.
Chong for me was phenomenal. I promise. And when he got the ball on the right hand side, you just knew that he was going to beat that opposition player, and he was time after time after time he was doing it.
Yeah, and they got the balls into the box, which is what Jukovic is there. Sometimes though, I don't think we have enough players in there, but it was ball in the box, and that's how we play. If you got Jukovic in there, you've got to have people around him, and I think he did. I think he played it right this time.
Cool, Alan. You were at the game, but
I was.
Yeah, but can I also ask you personally, why do you think Saturday was so much better than the last few weeks?
Why was it so much better? That's a very good question.
Thank you for your honesty there, old chap.
I tell you what came across. First of all, the manager got things right. And I think, as I said last week, I think he didn't get things wrong the week before. He just, rather than twist, he stuck. And in the light of 7 days, we've moved four points on from those lot down the bottom. All the 3 at the bottom, 0 point since we played Wigan. 0 point. They've all played in the week as well. Still got nothing. So, but what summed it up, first of all, about, the poor bloke had his face kicked off. And the player that kicked him carried on. No. Yeah. But 2 minutes after, it took a long time to get the poor bloke back on his feet. He looked like a bus had hit him. Off he went. And within 15 seconds, Harley Dean wins a header on the halfway line, takes out their bloke and Dukey, flattens the 3 of them, bang. And the 6 physios running on the pitch. It was a horrible. I could hear it was like skull against skull. It was awful. Go on with that game. Let's, and that was the kids. The kids added energy, which we certainly didn't have against Wigan, and they played well. They affected the game, and this is what I've been sort of looking at these 2 lads. Do they affect the game? Yes, they work their nuts off. Yes, they run, but on Saturday they both affected the game, and that's what pleased me more than anything.
Do you think then, Alan? Right, that's a great analysis, mate. Nice one. But do you think then that looking at the Birmingham City brick wall, which is what we demand as supporters, right? We demand that brick wall from every player, right? Do you think these youngsters have picked up on that and thought, look what he's just done there, mate? I'm on this. I'm having some.
Yeah, I think they become moulded into the style of the play. I still can't quite work out what Hannibal's done, not to get a start, but he's not moaned, and he comes on.
He was on the booking. That's why they didn't want to risk him.
I get that. But he must be soon past that deadline, so they don't start counting up against him. But he's everybody forgets he's only 20, and Chang, get the right one. Chung is only 22, 23. We got our 2 lads who are 18, 19. Then we brought on
JJ.
Jordan.
Yeah.
again, 18, 19. That's a big part of a squad to have babies in. You know, I know that the two ex-Man U players are perhaps a level above, but their legs are still only the same age, and their mentality is still the same. And they're growing. They're growing. You could see it.
Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's the game over and done with, ladies and gents, girls and boys, and we'll talk about the next game shortly. Excuse me, joking.
Colin, just before we start, Colin, please don't take this the wrong way, but I swear you have a doppelganger lookalike as an American serial killer. Says Lilypad, not me, says Lilypad.
Definitely Paul Hipkiss' love child. I don't care what you say.
I'm still waiting for the Peter Panu one, so
no.
I'm disappointed that's not arrived yet. So.
That's swearing on her, that is. So that won't come out. That'll be deleted.
Oh, ladies and gents, girls and boys, listen, you know what? We have suffered intolerably as Birmingham City fans. Colin, you're a Birmingham City fan. You suffered intolerably, like all of us, mate, like all of us, like your son and perhaps, your forefathers before you, I don't know. The levels of communication that come out of our football club have been dire, D-I-R-E, in capital letters, right? It started to get brilliant, and it was superb when Davo and Claire were there, right? They were communicating on our level, football fans' level. Every single day of the week, we were finding out what was happening, who was doing this, who was doing that. And for me, that was one of the best times of communication from Birmingham City Football Club ever. Full stop, with a big full stop after it. What's gone wrong, do you think?
They got rid of Colin.
It's going back there to Davo and Claire. They were excellent, and that was in the time of Gary Monk. And I think when results are going well, okay, when the team's doing well and the team has a good bond with the supporters, everything's swimmingly. But when it goes the other way, I think that's when people pick up on maybe the communication isn't what it could be. And also, I would say, obviously, having been in the thick of it as well, there are times when you would maybe advise or say we need to be doing this, etc., etc. But the people who make those ultimate decisions wouldn't necessarily agree with you. So there would be a frustration from within as well, that whereas you would want to be communicating, you'd want to be saying this, saying that, other people might be saying we're not doing that. And I think that is one of the problems that the club has had over the last few years, and particularly towards the end of my time there. It was a source of frustration as well, because ultimately, what is football without the fans? And if you're not communicating with your fans to the satisfaction of the supporters, then we may as well all give up. But I take your point, Nick. I mean, and I've been at the sharp end of that, and I bear some responsibility of that over the past few years. And what I would
say that, Colin, I absolutely respect you, mate. I promise you.
No, I'm quite prepared to take any criticism I've had, but it's going behind the curtain. It's not as straightforward as many people believe. And
match of the day.
What a weird! I don't know if any of your team watched it, but it was just the strangest, most bizarre thing ever.
I'm watching the highlights on your phone.
I haven't watched
Craig, the BBC.
I actually enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie.
Claire, the BBC should have just pulled that programme. Now, Mr. Lineker here has got his job back today. Well done.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Colin? Question put forward.
I think in Gary Lineker's case, because he's a freelancer, it was a bit of a grey area. So I think he felt he could still put what he wanted to do on his own channels, and the BBC, obviously, whether there was pressure from the government, brought him to task on that. So it's a very odd one, but as you said, it was pretty remarkable watching Match of the Day. It was surreal, wasn't it? It was like you said, it possibly in hindsight would have been better had they canned the program.
They should have pulled the program.
Yeah, but I think the curiosity got the better of so many people, and there was 500,000 more viewers, wasn't there? So,
yeah,
I preferred
figures
it.
went up.
Very
You enjoyed
strange.
it?
Preferred it. I thought
Did
it
you
was so
enjoy
much
it?
better.
What did you enjoy about
Miles
not
better.
hearing the commentary? And what did you enjoy about not hearing a summary after the game?
Because why do I need to know that he should have stood there when you know that he should have stood there? Why do I need to know that if they move there,
Because
then they move there, then they move there? Well, it's
there are
Spot
people
on.
in
You
this
know what I mean?
country
Yeah,
who
it's
aren't
spot
as
on.
football savvy as Claire Giblin, and you're very football savvy,
Yeah.
right? And because some people need to be told these things.
I get that, but if it's already happened, and like for example, Mo Salah missed the penalty, I don't need to see it 10 times to know that he didn't score a goal. Like, and I'm not being funny, but Blues aren't on it, so I just want to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, half the time, I actually watch it on catch up to skip it all. So 20 minutes, I
Yeah,
can
same
go
as
to
me.
bed.
I
Happy
do that.
days.
I do that, yeah.
And
Don't
you
watch the
don't need to
commentary.
pay people 6 million quid.
Brilliant, brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Something like
Nick, be putting aside Mr. Lineker's salary, and he probably gets a million or so from BT and whatever. And as you quietly say, we do this for the love of it, but we've all got opinions. Now, Gary Lineker's impartiality, to me, means he doesn't bull up Arsenal or Spurs over somebody else. That's as impartial as I want him to be. The rest of the time, he can say what the hell he likes. It's a free country. It's different if you're a political journalist. Then your impartiality is about one political side or the other. We all used to hate Gary Newman because he used to bull up the Villa against us all
I
the
still
time.
do.
Right? He still does. Now, if Gary Newman was to come out to say something political, which I agreed with, then I'd say, well, good on you. And if he said something political that I disagreed with, I'd still, well, you're still a big so-and-so, so-and-so, you Villa so-and-so, so-and-so, wouldn't I? Now, if you probably read some of my blogs, how many of you read my political, you think Gary Lineker's a bit of a one? Well, I'm going to hold my hand up and say, he's a wuss. Some of the things I tell Suella Braverman to do.
I can't believe that.
But there's no place for that on this show. But when I'm not,
Without a doubt, it's
watching
not what it's
football,
about.
I'm making political comments to
Not
people.
about that.
Nobody gives a toss.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
We go back to some of the earlier questions and doppelgangers. And Colin, I don't know whether you've heard a few of these, but first of all, Mark Meredith has said, hi, Tats, long time no see. Hope you're doing well. All the best from Texas, from our American colleague, shall we say. But Paul Hipkiss has said you're a dead ringer for Greg Wallace.
Oh, yeah. See that one, yeah. Good.
Jason Hughes has said you're Beaker from the Muppets.
That was a bit hard.
That's harsh.
It's very
Look at the
harsh.
lighting. Look at the
dear.
lighting.
Pete Taylor has said Harry Hill.
Yeah. No, the glasses aren't right. The glasses aren't right for that.
Colin, have you heard all these before?
The Harry Hill one's an interesting one, but Greg Wallace, I've heard that one. That's a good one, a new one.
And the questions have started coming in on the shape box as well. So
they have, yes. I was going to say.
Colin, toughest manager that you've ever had to deal with at the club?
That's a good one.
Be honest.
I'm just trying to think. There's been obviously a fair few. In fairness, I wouldn't say anyone's been particularly awkward. I think they've all been actually very good. I've been banned by Trevor Francis and Steve Bruce, but I would say I get on well with both. Steve Cottrell is an acquired taste, very intense.
So was his managerial style as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there was anybody that either I didn't get on with or found difficult to deal with. I think I always took the view that everybody's different. We have jobs to do, whether I was a journalist or working for the club, and everyone's different. And one guy I've got a lot of time for is Lee Clark. Lee, and I think if he had his time over again, this makes sense. He almost tried too hard.
Colin, sorry, I'm really going to interrupt you. Did you see the Lee Clark interview on here?
Yeah.
My God,
Really
that man had got so much passion for that football club.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it
and
just
I
didn't work for him.
And I agree with what you said. If he had his time over again, different story.
Yeah,
Before you answered that question, actually, Colin, a lot of people were saying the same thing. Cottrell, surely it's still Cottrell. So there you go. They're all with you.
Steve was fine with me. The relationship as a head of media and a manager is obviously different than it would be if you're a journalist and you're dealing with the club and that's the manager. But yeah, he was very intense. But I can't really say a bad word about him because I just speak as a fine, and he was fine with me. Maybe other people will have a different view. But again, over recent times, I mean, you look how many managers we've had in such a short space of time, whereas previously, Trevor Francis, Steve Bruce, they got good goes at it, which is something I'd love in the future that we can get back to, give a manager backing and time to actually put something into place rather than hire, fire, here we go, rinse and repeat. That's something which has to change.
Absolutely right. What about is a proper good question for you? Now, I think this guy, and he's worked at the top level in football, right? Gianfranco Zola, right? Who was Birmingham City's manager and was told to play football that Birmingham City do not do. We don't do tippy-tappy. We're 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 clear the weekend, and I know it worked, right? But that's our style. Our style is the brick wall, right? You ain't going to run through me, mate. And then he was told to change it to a ridiculous Do you think, had we not had those owners giving those directions, that we would have been a lot better off having that guy as a football manager?
Really interesting question, that, Nick, and it's a really interesting period for the club. That was at a time, a lot of people won't know that the board changed and the directive from a certain person who was in the background then.
Can you not name that certain person?
I can't, no.
Okay.
You'll know who I'm on about. But that directive came through that this is how I want the club to be. Name manager comes in, Gary Rowett goes. And what I will say about Gianfranco Zola, from in all my dealings in football with people I've had, whether as a journalist, working for a club, or as a fan, I've never known such a nicer guy of that level, world-class ability. And again, he probably tried to do things too fast, too soon. And I know he regrets maybe it didn't work with his backroom staff. There was tensions there in between them. And
was that his edict to do that, though?
Sorry, his edict to
was that his edict
to
do that, to change the style?
Yes,
was he told to change the style of football?
That's why what the board and the owner, shall we say, brought him in, because they wanted a different style of football to what Gary Rowett was producing. And it went too quickly, too soon. A load of players came in. You still had a lot of Gary Rowett's players there. And as we saw recently with, when Harry Redknapp, and there was a lot of players coming in and a big turnover of players, it doesn't work. And I think he would have brought in a different backroom staff. But for bits here and there, first game, was it Michael Kiftembel missed from 6 yards, we concede very last minute. Sliding doors, if things go differently, because there were some good spells that we did play some excellent football. I think 20 minutes, 40 minutes against Leeds, I think it was. It was fantastic football, but you can't go one to the other, can you, quickly? And the other thing, just quickly, what I say about Gianfranco, he so much wanted it to work, very much like Lee Clark. And when it became clear that the club, I was called to the boardroom to say, look, prepare a statement, Gianfranco, we're releasing him, sacking him tonight. And I went back down to the dressing room, and he was in a side.
Quick question, sorry, did Gianfranco know that at that time, or were you told first?
I think after, I can't remember what game it was, but I think he knew the writing was on the wall. So
okay, yeah, cool.
So anyway, I went up and was told to prepare something, and then I think he was either called, and so I went back down to the dressing room, and he was in the coach's ante-room, dressing room, and he just wanted 10 minutes on his own, and he was just completely and utterly broken. and I'm not saying I felt sorry for him, but you had to have some empathy with the guy. And when he came out, we'd announced that he had gone, and I said, "Look, the media, I wanted to speak to you. Do you want to do that? You know, etc., etc." I'm sure they'll understand. He said, "No, I want to go to speak to everybody." And he went out for about half an hour. And this is a guy who's just lost his job and still spoke with real class and dignity, and how things didn't work out. And he understood he was always in a difficult situation, replacing Gary like it was. It was very controversial, as we know. And it always stuck with me that, a guy who's seen it and done it and played at the highest level, he was absolutely distraught that it didn't work out for Birmingham. And on a human level, I really felt for him. And sometimes as fans, we get frustrated with player A, B, or C. He's terrible. He's not doing this. The manager hasn't got a clue. This, that, the other. But sometimes we also forget they're like us as well. They feel it inside and almost
human.
Yeah, and obviously because they have the weight of everything on their shoulders, the selection, all the supporters, everything. But yeah, I'll never forget that night that he was dismissed and the way he handled it.
And there's a man, Colin, who wasn't good enough for Birmingham City, but is now working for Chelsea.
Yeah,
does that not sum it up? Look.
Again, I think he was probably
they announced
wrong place, wrong time.
And I'm sure Claire, Alan, Mark, Chris, Craig, Birmingham City have just announced Gianfranco Zola as a manager. Like we're doing headstands. Yeah,
it was bizarre, wasn't it, at the time? Because I mean, like I say, we'd won the night before, and we were looking at the playoffs all of a sudden, and then next morning, couldn't believe it when you saw that Rowe had been sacked and Zola was coming in. He's what's going on here? Shock.
Yeah. I think it was more shock. I don't generally think anybody was happy that he came in, not with what he had done previously, because he was
it was a name. It was a name.
It was a name, and that's the problem. If it's a name,
that's right.
Like for example, Bowyer, he wasn't a name, but he's an ex-player. You got Redknapp was a name, things like that. So obviously they went for names instead of going for who
committed
the job properly.
But Claire,
I always remember his first game as manager. We played Brighton. Brighton's manager was our ex-manager, Chris. Just tell me his surname quickly.
Houghton.
Chris Houghton. And we made a substitution. We were winning, and we made a substitution which nobody at the time could understand. And we got beat 2-1. And it was in the right back area. We were trying to stop somebody, and I think he'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, it didn't work. And I was thinking, what chance have we got when we've got a manager? To be fair, it's only been through the door 12 hours, right? He doesn't know any of our players. But the opposition manager knows them all. And he picked out the weak spot in our side, made a substitution, won the game. Now, that to me was it. I always say to people, whether you're Jonathan Lecco or Gianfranco Zola, these people don't select themselves, right? Somebody says you're good enough, you're in the side. Now that may turn out to be true or not. You can't blame the person necessarily for having a go, and it's the buck stops somewhere, and as we've discussed endlessly. Our problem is we don't know where the buck stops because we don't know where it's going. But in those days we did, and nobody. In the end, all the rubbish got thrown at Gianfranco Zola, not to the person who suddenly turns a Gary Rowett side. And we've got 5 Italian coaches who all want to play your beautiful game. Right, and we got blokes in like we've got now who want to get stuck in, throw their heads at balls, blah blah blah.
Not balls.
Yeah.
Actually,
Colin. Right, we as Birmingham City have been probably through the worst period since the Kumars. Just recently. And I remember driving into the car park behind the old asbestos cop and, breaking a coil spring on every hole that was in the tarmac there to go and park your car for £1. Now, what is it you can tell us, and this is only what you can tell us, yeah, about, look, mate, half the grounds, the training grounds burnt down, we've got street food. What can you tell us? Where are you, Birmingham City?
We love street food.
Street food.
Street food.
Shove it. Give me a burger.
You're going to get your kitchen.
Hey!
I'm calling bingo already, Chris.
Oh, yeah, I got 3.
Alan,
What's that street food?
Colin, what can you tell us as supporters, because you have more knowledge than we do, about the hierarchy of Birmingham City Football Club?
What do you want to know?
Who owns us?
Let's see what happens with the EFL and if there is a further charge on the horizon.
Why should that make a difference between what we don't know and what somebody else might know?
I think.
I don't want to put you in a bad position.
No. I think most of us know who.
Please don't put yourself in a bad position by answering a question that is too sensitive. Don't. I'm not going to go there.
It's okay. I think most of us know who the ultimate string puller is, shall we say? And that's something that the EFL have been trying to get to the bottom of as well. And I think it is the beginning of the end. I think, although it still might take a while, I can't see how the current scenario can continue very much longer. In all honesty. Because it's got to a breaking point. And I think obviously the noises that, that we know of them from the Far East and Hong Kong and Cambodia, that certain people know that their time is up in many respects. So now it's just a question of a consortium or a group or whoever, how they can get a deal done and structured, which is, this is the immediate thorny issue.
So I'm going to go back to some of the questions on the shape box.
There's loads.
Mark Meredith asks a really good question, and it's actually in line with changes at the Birmingham Mail as well. So first of all, congratulations, Brian, on the new role. Hope you go on to do well, and welcome. I think it's Alex to the fold of writing for Birmingham. But Mark's question is, Tats, you're, as we all know, a massive blue nose.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote for the Mail, you wrote for the club, and you always had a fan's point. Just like his cousin Matt, and in brackets he has put with Villa, and also with the new Blues writer Alex admitting today that he didn't follow the Blues. Does it make a difference to the way, as a journalist, you can kind of write your articles and be a fan of the club at the same time?
It's a really good question, and it's one that is always asked throughout the years in journalism, isn't it? I think personally, it helps if you are a fan of the club that you're covering, as long as you don't get too myopic and you actually, you forget the journalistic principles and what you're there to do. Because I think you need to have that passion, that understanding of the club, the community, the support. But it's not to say that a fan of a club can't report on that club, if that makes sense. It's a really interesting subject, isn't it? I suppose it's like footballers that, if you're an Aston Villa fan and you play for Birmingham City, what's the difference? You're still there to do a job, aren't you?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah, you're still there to do a job. But I think it does help, if you have that affinity, or you've been, say, brought up watching the club, or you're aware of the sort of community and the passions and the support and what that fan base is like. I think that does help. But it doesn't necessarily, have to be, you have to support that club to cover it, I don't think.
Colin, because with everything you've just said, I know obviously you kind of knew what was happening, with like Dong and everything. Was it really hard not to kind of say anything or do anything, because obviously lots of things are coming out from ex-players like Stockdale and things like that, and you knew what was going on behind the scenes. As a massive Birmingham City fan, what was it like to have to kind of not say anything or
bite tongue?
Hard not to, because
Again,
it would have been so difficult to not say anything, knowing that it was happening.
Yeah, a really good question, and the way I'd answer that, I would say it was it was very, very fraught, very testing, very frustrating, and the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years that I was at Blues, the mental and physical stresses that you were under because you were there, you knew what was going on, and maybe the wider public didn't, and you were frustrated because if you were on the other side of the fence, obviously you'd be pretty outraged. It was very difficult to marry up the two, for working for the club and wanting to do what's right for everyone. It's pretty impossible, to be honest. So it was a very difficult, very stressful time, and people will turn around and go, yeah, but you worked for the club, you did this, you did that, you took the money. Yeah, but again, as Nick just said there, and I always tried to do what was best for the club and as a whole, even if some of the things you wouldn't agree with, and you would stand up, you would say certain things, whether that got acted upon or the advice or whatever was done, that's another story altogether. But yeah, it was a very testing time as an individual. And when I eventually I did leave, I must admit, I didn't realise how mentally drained I was for weeks on end. I mean, I was absolutely devastated to obviously leave the club with my connections and how long.
Was it your choice?
I'll come to that in a minute. But I was mentally, physically drained. I didn't realise how much of a toll it was taking, and that's everything. And I'm not looking for sympathy or anything, but that's just what it can be like when you're on the inside of a football club, knowing a lot more, than most people do. I'm not sure if that's answered the question very well, but it became quite crazy towards the end. Let's put it that way. And
actually, Colin, that's
very difficult for everybody there.
Colin, that's answered the question. Well.
Colin, you have answered that very well, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm looking at your face, and it obviously brings back that stress. Imagine if you were Gianfranco Zola.
Colin, someone's asked, what was the first game you ever reported on?
Properly was West Ham United versus Coventry City, and I did a runner for the Sports Argus. I was only a young kid.
The pink.
I think Coventry actually won. It must have been in 86, I think. And then I started to cover Wolves, and then obviously moved on to Birmingham City. So a long time ago. They were just phasing out typewriters.
This is a good question as well. It's from Adam Wilkes. He says, "Did Colin ever want to slip the truth out via a third party so the rumours would stop?"
I'd like to think I was professional and didn't talk out of turn or didn't betray any trusts and or secrets for the club that I was working for, which was Birmingham City.
Yeah, but do you ever think, like, I need this rumour to stop? I've got to get it. I've got to get the truth out somehow. Did you ever think
if there was rumours that were wrong? Obviously, as part of your job as a head of media and comms, you would speak to journalists and stuff and brief them, but not on the other side about getting information out there to sort of like, that would damage the club. I'd never do that. I've never done that. But on the flip side, if it's like, rumours that are going around which were completely wrong, you would actually be proactive to tell people, look, that isn't the case. This is what the case is. You definitely do that, obviously. fish ponds and people and stuff like that. You know, just silly little things.
Yeah.
Colin, can I just sorry, Chris? Can I just ask Colin? Did any of the players sort of see you as a link? You know, look for assurances from you. Did they ever sort of seek you out for like a quiet word and say, "Come on, Tats, you know what's going on"? Did you get any of that from the playing staff?
Yeah, I think because I was a little bit longer in the tooth, and I'm not a 20-year-old kid going into the position I went into. I think a lot of the players, they would ask what's happening, because obviously you'd be dealing with people at board level, management level, etc., etc. And so a lot of the players would, and obviously the period I was there for head of media at comms, it's been pretty torrid, as we know, hasn't it? So you would get a bit of that, and I would try also to sort of help players if I could, and even managers, and try and give advice with managers on not just in terms of media and how supporters might be feeling, but also how to maybe deal and approach the owners, how to best do that for your own advantage. So there was a lot of things like that aside from what the obvious parts of the job were, Mark, really. But I think that's come with the experience that I had, and obviously the being a bit longer in the tooth, like I said, as if I was a 20-year-old lad, going into sort of be heading up the media and look after the manager and players.
One of the other questions that's actually come in, I think, links nicely to that, Colin, and that's that you're obviously writing about your club for the Mail. Then you got that opportunity to come to Birmingham to do the job as you did as that head of communications. The question is, how did it feel to actually not jump ship from journalism into what you were doing, but actually to go into an area of the club you loved and having that opportunity to actually do things for the club instead of writing about them all the time?
It was a big decision to make, because obviously I'd been at the Mail for so long, and from going from one side of the fence to the other. But at that time in my life and the way it was going at the Mail, I needed to do it. But then going into seeing how a club operates, not necessarily just Birmingham, but obviously the dealings I've had with my counterparts at other clubs, the football world and industry is a balmy place. It's like no other business community. Things are done which you wouldn't believe. And I must admit, when I went there, I found it an eye-opener initially about the way things were done and how decisions were made, rather than reporting on stuff and maybe not, scratching the surface as much. It was very much an eye-opener. But on the other side of that, I felt my experience that I'd had doing the job I'd had did help the club in many respects, and of course the way that the media has, even in the last 10 years, has changed. I think it's a big part for every club now.
Colin, one of the other questions that's actually come on multiple times now is...
That's a good one, this.
In regards to your favourite game to have ever covered, is it fair to say it was the Carling Cup final?
I mean, that has to be. That's almost... I can die happy. I'm sure a lot of Blues fans felt the same. We win.
Totally agree, yeah.
I keep saying this. We win a major trophy once every 48 years. So it means that much more to us. And that was just, the second half against West Ham in the semi-final, unbelievable. But and I always have a little bit of a bugbear about this, and I get it, and I was there as well, and the emotional at Bolton when we stayed up. But we're celebrating staying up, avoiding relegation. We should be competing for trophies in finals. We won one. Not a lot of teams can actually do that, and it meant that much more because it wasn't normal. We haven't turned into a Manchester City. Wouldn't it be great if we were celebrating being competitive, getting into playoff finals, getting into other finals, staying in the Premier League? But I do get it. The emotion of that day at Bolton, as we all know, was, and I think the repercussions had we gone down would have been Armageddon. To be honest,
Question. Did you speak to David Ellery after the Liverpool fight?
Tried to, but can't remember.
Do you agree? Do you agree that it was the biggest theft in football ever?
I mean, the non-penalty was
the AJ one,
crazy, and I think it was Michael Johnson. I think said whether he spoke to David Ellery or might have been Stefan Onshow that he admitted, it was a foul all day long. And you know, after that game, I always remember this. We talk about how managers feel it. I know people have got their views on Trevor Francis. I remember after we'd done all the interviews and everything, and all the celebrations had died down, going past the Blues coach who was waiting to leave. There was nobody on it. There was only Trevor on the front seat, and he had a 1,000-yard stare. He was gone. He would have loved to have delivered a trophy for us, and I don't think he's ever. I don't think he'll ever get over that. What happened and with that penalty incident, as you mentioned, and again, I would have loved for our greatest player to have actually led us to a trophy.
And wouldn't it have been lovely, Colin, for that man to not just be able to sit in the Blues club shop with half the books that he'd want? Oh, what a ridiculous scenario.
Craig.
Colin, just on that point, you were talking obviously very passionately around Bolton, and earlier on you mentioned around Lee Clark and the managerial side of things. Just thought I'd let you know that I've actually had a text message from Lee whilst we have been talking.
Yeah.
What did he say?
And his immediate reply was, "Thank you for all of the kind words. Tats was an absolute top guy, and you got 3 thumbs up from him." So Lee was brilliant on the show, as you heard, and he has stayed in touch. And I know at some point we will get him back down to St Andrews to.
The one thing for me, Craig, about Lee Clark was when he jumped, just before he jumped, and he went, "It's for you, it's for you," and that was for you. Boom.
And remember when he kicked the advertising hoardings against Burnley as well?
Yeah.
Just that was Lee, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And one of the other questions, and I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit, Tats, but your time at the club came to an end in a bit of a strange way. And people are saying they can pretty much understand and are guessing the name of some of the people, should we say, that were not as helpful as maybe they could have been. But they've said, if you had the opportunity, would you ever go back?
What, and do what I've done or in the future?
Yeah.
You'd never say never, would you?
No.
It's my club. It's our club. Of course I'd love to go back, but I can't see that happening, in all honesty. So I just have to sort of move on and see what else is out there. But yeah, if the circumstances were right, I'd love to.
You're listening to the Tilton Talk Show, live every Monday, 6:30 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and available as a podcast from Tuesday, 12 p.m.
One of the biggest privileges of my life was to cover this club for a paper like the Birmingham Mail Sports Argus. It's a massive responsibility. I never took it for granted. And then another privilege was to actually work for that club. And I always felt honoured and a sense of responsibility for what I was doing. And people might say that's a bit, romanticised, but I exactly take your point. It's something that could never be taken away from me. And it's a moment in time. And reporting on that Carling Cup win, I was again very, very emotional because that was a part of history, and I was reporting history of our club. And when I'm long gone, that will still be there. So I've never taken anything for granted, and and I've probably been, I've been very passionate, and that's probably why it hit me hard when I did leave, because that's all I've known my working life.
I know.
What are you doing now, Tats? Are you still journalism?
I am seeking employment, shall we say?
Right.
Would you go on the radio?
Anything, yeah.
Just to carry on what Claire was saying, would you go into radio, or people have asked
like
that on the show,
BBCWM or even like Blues TV or something like that, considering your background?
It's whether it's whether there's openings really. That's the difference. So
competitive.
And at the moment, there's no real openings. So I'm just trying to look at various other things. So, but that's life, things happen. Other people get made redundant, and I'm not sort of getting the violin strings out or anything. There's a lot of people worse off than I am. So, but I'm just trying to crack on, and I'll hopefully I'll be back in some sort of capacity doing what I love, which is involved in football, whether that's working in it, watching it, scouting it, writing about it. I don't know.
And if the call came from the other side of the city, would you? I'm sorry.
You nasty man.
Yes.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
No.
I'd find it very difficult. I remember when
Colin, 5 million. Could you do it?
No.
Nah. What's money? I just find it very strange. Yeah.
Quick story: when we played Villa for the first time in a long time over at their place, obviously as club representatives, club media, you've got your nice club jacket with the crest on, and I said to the guys in the media team, right, everybody is wearing their Blues gear to this game, and you know what? I was the only one that did. The rest of them bottled it, wearing all the normal jackets because they thought, it's going to be. And where you go to the press box, you're going through Villa fans as well. And they just left me on my Jack Jones.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, then Colin Tattum has just become a superhero.
No, we are actually running out of time, Tats. So we did ask you to prepare your 1 to 11.
Hey, crikey, we've got 3 minutes.
So let's have a laugh. And
also, Colin, once you've finished that, I think you've still got a really close link into the club. Your son obviously playing for Birmingham, and I mean, you get to know, like, you've reported on them, you've written about them, you've worked for them. Now you've got family involved. How does it feel to almost be a parent on that side of things, looking in at the moment as well?
It's very strange. Obviously, he's been there 8 years, all through the academy system. It's very odd, and obviously he was going through a time whether he get a scholarship or not at the time that I was leaving, shall we say. So it's very difficult, and in fairness to him, he's shown great resilience and fortitude to get to where he has done, and I'm very proud of him, obviously, as a parent.
Of course,
and I know how much it means to him to play for this club. And nothing would give him more pleasure to actually, to go on and, get on the pitch in front of all the supporters. Whether that happens, that's another story. But and I've always tried to keep it a little bit low key because I've been in an odd situation where, like, your dad works for the club and you're there at the academy. But it's the situation I found myself in the last couple of years has been positive in a way because I can go and watch him every Saturday as well.
What position is it at? What position?
Centre forward.
We need one of them. Great.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through it?
Go on then. Yeah. Go on then.
Right. Mike Taylor in goal.
Yay!
Yeah.
I think at the time in the Premier League, he was outstanding for us and the best British goalkeeper, non-foreign goalkeeper for one season alone. And I think he's been a great servant. And I've gone with a back four: Stephen Carr, Joe Gallagher, Michael Johnson, Malcolm Page. I've gone there with a lot of longevity with some of the names, 3 of the names, and Stephen Carr, absolutely outstanding captain, outstanding player. Considering he was retired and just doing bits in the gym and then came to us and captained us, played 100-odd games. Unbelievable. And then I'm having 2 midfielders, 2 holders, Gary Pendry, because Gary can play anywhere.
Oh, my God, what a player.
And I wouldn't want to face Gary as a holding midfielder on the opposition. Next to him, I've gone I was looking at Ferguson, Barry Ferguson, Robbie Savage. I've gone with Brian Hughes.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fantastic talent. And then a sort of three of Trevor Francis, Christophe de Gary, Stan Lazaridis. I've gone for those three behind Big Bob Blatch.
Absolutely super.
And it's interesting saying there's only one player who started, in the Carling Cup final win. And I think that tells you a lot about how good a team that we were. Maybe weren't outstanding individuals, but what a team that was that won that trophy.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're into the last 15 minutes. And as you can see, Mrs. Brown, there he is, with his headphones on. There goes a rather large zit on the top of his head.
It's not a zit.
It's where he broke his unicorn horn off over the weekend. Have a look at it. Right, Chris, zoom in. And there it is. In reality, ladies and gentlemen, what he did in a drunken state that he was in, as always, he walked into the corner, like that, into the corner of a shop. So the last 15 minutes, anything to do with football and a corner shop.
Last 15 minutes? I know what.
In his head.
A corner shop.
Corner shop.
Corner shop.
Last 15 in a corner. So football in a corner shop. Corner shop or any shop?
What's inside a corner shop, whatever.
Oh, so it's anything inside a shop, basically.
All right, Jerry. What about Jerry Till?
He's still not funny.
Jerry,
No,
get it.
None of us are laughing, mate.
You're going to get that. Right.
Oh, Claire laughed.
I did laugh, but I thought that was
Yeah,
a
laugh.
laugh.
Claire
No
did.
problem.
Oh, stop it. Claire did
Okay,
not
so we
laugh.
got
She had wind again.
Harley Beans,
Oh.
Peter Till, yeah, we got Otter Chocolate.
Oh,
We got Fags and Blues. Dealey had a 10p mix-up.
David Celery.
What's that? Celery.
David Celery, not Ellery. Yeah.
Oh, the ref, yeah.
This actually should be quite easy. Spam Lazaridis. Eric Tin Canatana. Dealey had a bag of sweets.
Who did it?
Dealey had a bag of sweets. That was a lily pad.
Stephen
Stephen
sorry,
Carr.
this is not trickled yet, so you're not the winner.
I think this is Stephen Carr Parts magazine.
Oh.
That's a good one.
I'll have Nigel Ria Coca-Cola.
Name straight, Craig, please.
I'm putting my hand up. That one's mine. That is.
Kyle Walkers.
Ready, Brett Shrey.
Yeah, ready, Brett Shrey, yeah. Brett Shrey.
Not bad. Could be better, Colin.
Oh, Liv may well have come up with the winner here, and this is very clever with Troy the Beanie.
I'm going to get them a Sherry.
I actually don't get this one, but first I should. It's Nurse Gladys Gary Emanuel.
Yeah, well done.
What's that?
Well, Nurse Gladys Emmanuel, and there was Gary Emmanuel played for us.
Yeah.
Who's Nurse Gladys?
Yeah, but what's she got to do?
What's Nurse Gladys?
Shopkeeper.
Open all hours.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I'm
working very hard, that one, though, isn't it? Working very hard.
Very hard. So we got West Spam, Nick Coke, Chris Musampa.
Whoa.
Weren't that funny? Pepsi Max Colin. Here's a good one. Dwight Yorkie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of liking the Ricky Otto crossbun.
Yeah, I'm not going to say Nicky Butt Plug. Meal Deal E Adebola. That's clever. Lemonade Bowler, Salt and Lineker.
Pat Rice.
Dirty Magzoma.
That's a good one.
Oliver Bierhoff.
Fraser Fosters.
What about Oil Quinn?
What about what?
Oil Quinn. Oil.
Oh,
Quinn.
right. Okay. Well, yeah, but yeah.
Ricky Otto Crossbun. Open All Tony Towers.
Tony
Magazine
Towers. That was
Magona.
another player, Colin, wasn't it? Tony Towers. What a player.
John Stone Baked Pizza.
I'll have
Tumbleweed.
I'll just get Tumbleweed there.
Barry Paul.
Riley.
Mark Fish. Bert Murray Mint.
What about Brian? What about Brian Liddell?
Brian Little, yes. Chicken doy sauce.
Stop it!
Pickering onions. Barry Fry's chocolate.
Yeah, I like that one.
20 Paul Lamberton Butler.
Oh my God,
These are terrible.
They are, aren't they?
Oh, Carrier Baggio.
Carrier Baggio. Carrier Baggio.
Did you have Nacho? He's a footballer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Played for Rangers, Nacho.
Yeah. Still not very good, but yeah. Paul
He was
Devlin.
he was a crisp. He had a crisp shot on him.
You like to do the South as well.
Thanks for that, Claire. I'd have been silent for the rest of the night without that
Fine.
feed.
I'll laugh at yours, but nobody laughed at mine. It's fine.
Colin Taters.
Pat Rice.
Dilly Aldi. Michael Morrison.
Tim Flowers.
Jason Park Drive.
Michael
That one's good as well.
That's a good one.
It's the supermarket. Sack person immediately.
Matt Cashback. John Joe Top Shelfie.
That's brilliant. I'm loving it.
Clever. I don't know how they come up with it. I really don't.
Tate and Lyle Taylors.
Yeah, very clever. We've got 5 minutes left. I think we need to move on to the game as well.
Hold on, I've got one.
Tomorrow. Oh, hang on. Let's all be quiet. Colin's got
This
one.
would be really worth waiting for.
Let's get the popcorn out.
No, come here.
Buy one, get one, Karen Fry.
Yeah,
Very good.
no, it weren't worth the wait, was it?
That's terrible, wasn't it? Sorry.
I'll go for Barry Fry's Turkish Delight.
Yeah, done that one.
Oh, have we? Oh.
Yeah. Checking door of the counter.
Dealey had a bowl of curry sauce.
Oh, gosh. That's an Indian restaurant. That's not a shop, is it? There. Come on.
Frank Scratch Card. Scott Minto. Karen Gravy.
And gravy.
Craig, match tomorrow. Watford.
Aye.
Yeah, I fancy us to take a draw down there.
Right,
I think it'll be a hard fought 1-1.
That one. I'm going to go 0-1. Well, or 1-0 to Watford.
Who's going?
Yeah, I
Someone
wasn't asking
going?
you.
I'm going.
I'm going.
Oh, I can't make it.
And QPR.
The will say,
Whoa, stop. You ready? Scales.
No, he's not.
and the weekend for QPR, I actually fancy us the result down there. So I think we'll beat them 2-1. I can see them scoring, but I think we'll beat them 2-1.
Yeah,
I think we'll get a draw tomorrow. I think we'll scrape a draw, and I think same as you, Craig. I think 1-1 tomorrow, 2-1 Saturday.
Colin, what do you think?
I think Watford, Chris Wilder's first home game, isn't it? But it just sounds very strange down there at the moment. Bit of a mishmash. Managers come in, going, players here, there, everywhere. I don't know. It's set up. We could get something. I think a draw. I'd take a draw. And QPR, you just don't know. Okay, they beat Watford, didn't they? But they've been on a terrible run. It's the sort of game we could win. Yeah, if we could get 4 points from these two games, brilliant. Going into the break, brilliant.
Totally agree. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll take 4 points from the two. I'm not quite sure which way round we get them, but I think we're going to get a win out of one or the other. The good thing was that QPR beat Watford last Saturday, so we'll go to QPR and they will not be on their first win under the new manager. That's a good omen. Not that I actually believe in omen. I can't argue which way around it because I think they could win them both. Equally, they could draw them both, but I don't think we're going to get beat twice. Put it that way. Can
I just say as well? I think, dare I say, I think we're safe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do. I think we'll get a draw. I think I would be really happy with a draw tomorrow.
Yeah, I would.
And I think we can beat QPR. I hope we turn up. Hopefully I can get their kick off. But yeah, I just think, QPR, they're a funny side. I didn't think that they blew us away when they came here. I thought Watford didn't blow us away either. But again, against a new manager, we'll just see what happens. Hopefully like Alan said, let's get 4 points. Let's, solidify it. Let's make it so we're safe and we can get on.
I'll get it all clear. I promise you I do. Right towards the end of the show tonight. So, Colin, sum up what you think the next 3 years of Birmingham City holds.
Oh, blimey.
I'm sorry, mate, but you know what?
That's not a lot to ask, is it?
Oh, goodness me. Okay. Change for the better, because
it
has to change.
What don't you do, Colin, is think. I want you to proper sum up what is going to happen to Birmingham City in the next 3 years.
I don't think he's got a crystal ball.
In the next 3 years,
I can only see his head and his shoulders.
Ownership change, a vision, an identity, and we get a connection back with supporters, and also the germ of an idea or the formulation to move to a new stadium. There you go.
And really? Do you think, Colin, that the EFL are out to get us again?
No. If you break the rules, you have to suffer the consequences. I'm pretty sure the EFL would want ownership change, and they would want the problem to go away in that respect, i.e. new people coming in so they can deal with new people and not have to address the problems historically that they are currently addressing.
Which is fine, but what about the fit and proper persons test?
In what respect, Nick?
In the respect that we are in the dungeons that we're in, right, because of the fit and proper persons test was not conducted correctly, right? We are looking at a hairdresser. My son's a hairdresser. He struggles to pay his mortgage, mate. Huh? We're looking at a hairdresser buying a multi-million-pound football.
That was the Premier League, don't forget, not the EFL.
Granted, and I know that, right? But why haven't they been held to account?
I think the EFL aren't a massive cash-rich organisation, and I don't think you have to prove a lot to be a director or an owner of a club, which they are obviously now tightening up on that, and then a government regulator should also enhance that. I have some sympathy with the EFL, but it's difficult to police. It's been like the Wild West, hasn't it?
Okay, cool.
Nick, we're gonna have to wrap it up, Nick. So if you want to, you've got 33 seconds to say 33
goodbye. Seconds. Claire Gillian, goodbye.
Goodbye. Keep right on. If you see me at the Blues, say goodbye. Hello.
Mark.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, miles away. Have a good week, everyone. Stay safe and keep right on.
Alan.
Yeah, looking forward to 2 away visits near home. Yeah, all the very best to everybody, and keep right on.
Craig.
Everyone will say, watch out for some announcements around some other great guests that are going to be joining us over the next few weeks.
And also, Colin's coming back, is he?
Oh, yeah, Colin, welcome back anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to. Fun. It's been
Colin,
great. Thanks for having me.
Colin, right, you know what? You've summed up so much good things tonight, and you've been so dead honest and so open.
11 seconds.
If you want to come on next week, every week, and this is what we did to Claire the other week, because she is so good at her analysis, you're very welcome here every single week. From me, Chris Brown, Mark Adams, did you say goodbye? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Chris Brown!
Tonight.
We love you, what more?